Now, don't you scuff my luggage. You scuff my luggage and I will scuff you. Okay? Good. Hello. Hello. How are you? You're catching me on the way out. I'm heading up for spring. So, I thought I'd bring you 2 plays for the price of 1. I'm feeling generous. Must be the spring influence. Anyway, I'm bringing you 2 plays for the price of 1. But remember, if you want to support us, blah, 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 book, blah, 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 things, blah, 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 Redbubble, blah, blah, blah. Like, subscribe, comment, share, or I'll jump out from under your bed and rip your arms off. So, what am I bringing you? Well, I believe the last time I saw you, when I brought you Caesar and Cleopatra, I said that I would bring you an ancient Greek play. I believe I said that I would bring you, because we'd done Oedipus Rex, I would bring you Oedipus in Colonus. Okay? But Oedipus in Colonus consists of an old man sitting down and talking. So I thought we might dispose of the entire I don't know, do they have a plural of that? They're not like Atarides, the sons and daughters of Laius, shall we say? That entire tribe that clearly offended the gods somehow, and do Antigone as well, because Antigone has a lot more actually happening in it. Unfortunately, like all the great Greek plays, all the good stuff occurs off stage. And this has a lot of good stuff occurring off stage. We only get it reported to us. I'm really hoping Seneca is a bit more on stage. Given its influence on Elizabethan theatre, I'm assuming a lot more of it happens on stage in Seneca. But we're doing the Greeks. We're doing Sophocles. We are doing Oedipus in Colonus and Antigone. So because Oedipus in Colonus provides background to Antigone, we're not going to just run through that entirely. I'm just going to use that for backgroundiness on the whole. Though I will tell you that after all the upheaval of Oedipus Rex, all the it coming out about the incest and the Jocasta killing herself and Oedipus blinding himself and going into exile, you would think he would have learned something. Anyone would have thought that hearing Oedipus in this play, anyone would think that he has been roughly dealt with. And it's like, my man, you murdered your father. Admittedly, you didn't know that. You married your mother. Admittedly, you didn't know that. You brought plague to Thebes. You kept digging and digging and digging to find out what you were starting to subconsciously know and everyone else subconsciously knew. Then you abandoned your city, having blinded yourself, to wander as a beggar because you were polluted, leaving your incestuous, insufficient number of grandparents, children, in the city under the protection of Creon. Well, it turns out that this insufficient number of grandparents' children are about as awful as their father. As if we didn't see that coming. So Oedipus is still bemoaning his fate, and he, at the end of his life, apparently there is a prophecy that says wherever he is buried will provide victory and safety to the city. And he is now on the outskirts of Athens, and he has sat down in the sacred grove of the Erinyes. These gods turn up a lot in this play. In fact, they turn up more in another one that we will do, which is another trilogy of plays. But let me just say, and I will go into the Erinyes more detail then, but Father Uncle Zeus is beholden to the Erinyes. So they are a law unto themselves. They do not at all listen to anyone. They are the goddesses of vengeance. And once you let them loose, you don't let them loose. Don't let them loose is all I can say. Do not let loose the goddesses of vengeance, because there's always another person to wreak your vengeance upon. So is it little wonder, given the fact that Oedipus clearly has no remorse for anything that has happened. He's like, oh, this was not my fault. This was not my fault. Yeah, well, dude, you did it. You did it, my man. And I was driven from the city. No, you voluntarily left. In the last play, you voluntarily left. There's no point whining about it now that you don't like the life of a beggar after being a king. Creon tried to get you into the house. Creon tried his very best to keep private matters from spilling all over the place. But no, you wouldn't have that. No, you had to make all the shame of your household public knowledge. You washed your sheets in public. There's no point crying now, my man, that, oh no, my family have treated me badly. You polluted your family. You polluted your family. So anyway, at this point, Theseus is king of Athens. So this is pre-Trojan War. Okay, this is pre-Trojan War, because the Erinyes are still the dominant force of justice. So Theseus comes, and Theseus does come, and he wants to know why Oedipus is there, and Oedipus tells him about the he tells him his sob story and things like that, but also about the prophecy of where he is to be buried. And he wants to give this to King Theseus, and he is invoking Theseus, although he is polluted, so Theseus does not want to touch him. Although he is polluted, he is invoking the protection of Theseus, because he knows that Creon wants to drag him back to Thebes to bury him just outside of Thebes to protect Thebes. And one of his sons wants him also for the same purpose, but to bury him in a different place. So he is invoking Theseus. He is begging Theseus to protect him from these rival factions. Now, he is being led by Antigone, his youngest daughter, and as they're waiting there, his other daughter comes along and tells them about the what's been happening in Thebes. So in Thebes, Creon has been left as regent. It's not actually his throne, it was his sister's, and he's been doing okay, but he's been regent for these two boys without enough grandparents. He has his own life and his own stuff to be doing. And now these two boys, these two men who are supposed to be co-rulers, alternating time, one of them has decided not to give up the throne. at his allotted time. So the elder has gone off in a huff and has raised an army. And this is also told in the play 7 Against Thebes. So there's a good chance we're not doing 7 Against Thebes because I really don't want to rehash this. So, and that's by Aeschylus. So he's raising an army to march against his brother to get his throne back. So Creon comes and he wants Oedipus to go with him back to Thebes to protect the city, so that his grave can protect the city. Creon attempts to persuade Oedipus by abducting his daughters. He abducts one, but Antigone yells and screams, and Theseus, who's just a bit further off, making sacrifice, hears her, comes back and forces Creon to release Antigone, and has sent his men off to release the other daughter, because he will not be said that people can abduct people out of his kingdom and he stand idly by. So Creon is forced to curse his ill luck and leave and go back to Thebes. Polynices is the son. Polynices arrives and he begs Oedipus to come with him so that, you know, he gets the protection. And both of these times, with both Creon and Polynices, he is very, 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 you didn't do anything for me in my time of need, blah, 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 blah. He's not a very nice person, is Oedipus. Quite frankly, you would think he should have been a bit humbled. He should be walking humbly before the god's bed. No, he's just a grumpy old man. See what I mean about this thing not having a lot of drama? The biggest thing is 2 girls get abducted, one off stage and the other in a slight standoff on stage. Like, that is the limits of what is actually happening. So Oedipus sends his elder son away with a bee in his ear. And then he decides, it's time to die. Theseus, I'm going to walk with you out further off in and say goodbye to my daughters, because nobody but you can know where my resting place is, and you must pass this secret from father to son to protect Athens. It's basically a bit of pro-Athens propaganda, this entire play. And so that's what he does, and he dies, and Theseus alone knows where he is, and that's the end of the play. It's a bit anticlimactic. Which is why I sort of thought, it's got typical middle trilogy vibes. It's like it was started in the first one, it ends in the third one, but the middle's a bit soft. In terms of a standalone play, you really need to put it into its context of the other 3. You know, it's the weakness of a trilogy, I think. If you're not careful, that middle can really sag. Even though Sophocles wrote that last, it still suffers that sagging middle of a trilogy. You know, it's sort of the Henry IV Part 2. You know, you got Henry IV Part 1, excellent play. Henry V, excellent play. Henry IV Part 2, compared to the other 2, yeah, I can see the saggy middle part, but not as bad as this one. Because I'll always take some false stuff, frankly. And really, really Hal and his father in that one is quite good. It's just the sort of grievances of the nobles that is kind of, and they're sort of too tidied up a bit, especially since it's like it's hanging on after that decisive victory at the end of Henry IV Part 1. So, you know, you can sort of see this has that same sort of issue. Although I will watch Henry IV Part 2 over and over again before I watch this one over and over again. So, you know, that I'm not saying this to diminish Henry IV, Part 2. So that brings us to Antigone. Antigone. Now, this is the one that I was like, okay, well, we got to do this one then. If that one's a bit lackluster, we've got to do Antigone. So, Antigone opens after Polynices and her other brother, whose name I can't remember, but he's dead anyway, so it doesn't really matter, have fought. Polynices has lost. Both brothers actually killed each other. Messy civil wars, ugly, messy things, nasty things. But Creon, because he is so... Creon is, as I said, Creon is not the king. He is the king by default. Oedipus's male heirs are now dead. His daughters are unmarried and are protected in his household, but are not obviously in this world in line for the throne. So therefore, Creon, as the only responsible adult in the room, is left holding the bag. He has just watched his kingdom get torn apart, or risked being torn apart by rival Oedipal offspring, who clearly have all of their father's arrogance and all of his humility as well. So it's probably good riddance to them. Not good kingship there. But anyway, so he's now holding the bag, and he wants to make an example of Polynices and his rebellion against the state. Because, you know, you just can't have people raising an army against the state and trying to take the crown for themselves. Even if, you know, I think that a bit of arbitration probably could have solved all of this. All of this could have been solved with a bit of arbitration, bit of negotiation. But you know what? You know what? My sister cousin Athena hadn't thought of it yet. She won't think of that for a while. So we are left in the hands of, guess who? The Erinyes. You don't want to be in the hands of the Erinyes. They're terrifying. The Furies are not something you want near you. So this is a world where wrongs beget a wrong done to me, a harm to my honour, evokes the Erinyes that I will then turn on you. And you will then turn, and it just becomes a horrible cycle of revenge. So, because we're living in this world, Creon has decided, in order to make an example of people who turn against the state, Polynices shall lie on the battlefield unburied. Now, this is really an offence against us. Well, yes. I mean, they're our rights that he is denying him. And you really, as I have said, I spend a lot of time wrangling the dead and having the dead wandering around topside, or even just coming down to the sticks and standing there looking at it and like, I can't cross, is kind of a problem. It's irritating. It's like, give the dead their fare across the ferry. To cross the ferry. We'll look after them from there. If they're really horrible, we'll send them to Tartarus. Don't worry, they'll be punished. They're certainly punished now. But, you know, I mean, trust us. We're not going to send him to the field of asphodel. I've already told you about the field of asphodel. We're not going to send him there. Just trust our wisdom. But no, Creon is going to leave him unburied. So Antigone is the kind of person in this play that you sort of think, oh, isn't she so good? Except really she has some of the same flaws as her father. She does do the right thing, but it's she's just as pig-headed as her father, really. And we'll get to that. So Antigone says, she talks with her sister, and her sister says, what can we do? Our uncle has said that this has to be. One brother is given funeral rites, the other isn't. I don't know what you want me to do. And Antigone says, I am going to go and bury our brother. And will you help me? And her sister says, no, I can't. I cannot help you do this. So Antigone goes out and she sprinkles dirt over the top of her brother's body. And this should be enough to work. Except that there is a guard placed over the body to make sure nobody does this. Now the guard were a little bit distracted when Antigone went out and did this the first time. Oops, I said the first time, didn't I? And so the first time Antigone does this, she sprinkles the dirt. She says the prayers. Technically this works. You can't pull them back. Once they're buried, they're buried. But you know. And she gets away. The soldier on guard comes to the palace where Creon has basically said this is the order, and everyone is like, it's harsh, but yeah, okay, we'll go with it. And the soldier comes in and he says somebody has sprinkled earth over the body. And Creon is enraged and he is like, did you do this? No, I didn't do this. I promise I didn't do this. Well, you find out who did, or it's on your head. So the guard is redoubled. And pretty soon, Antigone makes a second try. This time, she is captured by the guard and she is brought before Creon. And Creon says, what you've done, this is unlawful, this is against my law. And she said that what you are doing is breaking the laws of God's of our religion and custom. This is my brother. I can't leave him like this. So she makes a very decent point. It's a very decent point. But Creon is adamant. You will be walled up in a tomb for this. Her sister does try to say, oh, well, I did this too, but no one really believes her. And Antigone won't let her sort of muscle in on her like martyrdom glory. Because Antigone is a little bit of a fanatic. Doing it once and failing, that's probably doing your duty, doing more than your duty. Going out twice and then being very defiant to the king, you're starting to look a little fanatical. But this action and the sentence of death has raised the sympathy of the people. People are now talking about King Creon has done something very wrong. I don't think Antigone did something so very terrible. That maybe we do owe the dead something. Yes, you can't carry your revenge past death. This sort of thing. You know, which Creon isn't enjoying hearing. He certainly doesn't enjoy hearing his son come in and tell him, how dare you do this to my fiancé? I personally think you dodged a bullet there. She doesn't have enough grandparents, and the grandparents she has, you share. Dude, you want your line to end? You want to get a Tutankhamun? Because that's how you get a Tutankhamun. I'm just saying. That's how you get a Tutankhamun. Not enough grandparents. But anyway, he comes in and he protests and he says that this is wrong, imprisoning her for doing the thing that, and not only imprisoning her but sentencing her to death for doing the thing that the gods themselves demand. And we know that, it's obvious that the gods themselves demand this, because when Achilles tries the same stunt in the Iliad, Achilles tries to pull the same stunt with Hector. What did the gods do? They made sure Hector didn't corrupt as he was dragged around and around and around, that he was unharmed, so that when Priam sued from the body, he was able to take home his son, because what Achilles was doing was so offensive to the gods. It offended us. So the people, the king's son, are saying, what you are doing is offensive to the gods. But Creon is utterly resistant to any pleas. His son goes off, clearly deeply upset by this. Antigone hears her sentence, and turns out that the idea of a death sentence and whatnot in the abstract is all well and good, but all of a sudden she's not liking the real deal. She's not liking the fact that her uncle is actually going to wall her up in a tomb. He doesn't kill her. He says she can meet death however she wants. We'll put food in there. Something might come along to save her. The people the courtiers, the chorus assure her that you will be remembered. You will be remembered as a martyr, as a heroine. You will not be forgotten. Your name will live forever. But this is cold comfort to a young woman who didn't actually really think this could actually happen. This is sort of the problem with being a bit of a zealot. I will take this position, but when it comes time to pay the piper, she's kind of got cold feet. She's not enough of a zealot for that in that case. But so she gets walled up in a tomb. Then Tiresias, the blind seer, who we know from all the way back in Oedipus Rex, the one who cleared up everything in terms of what was causing the plague in Thebes. That one. He comes in and he is angry at Creon. It's you are polluting things. You are, by not burying this man's body, you are bringing down pollution on the city. You are in the wrong. Fix this now before it comes back to get you. Before this bites you, because it will bite him. And of all the people who could have said something to Creon, this is the person who is like, oh, okay, right, you're really not happy with me and you talk to the gods. And so Creon goes out. He he finally decides that he doesn't, okay, it's being, that the anger of the gods is going to be directed at him, and the Erinnyes are going to come for him. So he's going to hope to try and make sure that they don't come for him, because he has offended the gods, and you don't want to offend the gods. So Creon goes out, he buries Polynices' body, and he gives the prayers, the offerings, burns it, the whole deal. He then goes to where Antigone has been walled up. But someone has got there before him. His son has got there before him. Now, we don't get to see any of this. We don't get to see any of this. This is all messenger, which was a great disappointment for the Milwaukee family players, let me tell you. They were getting really bored by the end of this. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. In the tomb, Antigone has hanged herself, and his son has squeezed his way into the tomb and has found her, and is mourning and lamenting and sobbing, and is a mess. At the sight of his father, he goes to attack his father. When he misses his father, when his father steps out of the way, he then turns his sword on himself, and he dies. This is all reported to the boy's mother, who, hearing this, goes into the other room and kills herself. And Creon comes home to discover with a dead son and a dead wife. And yeah, turns out you don't mess with the Erinnyes, and you don't mess with the gods. You don't attempt to carry vengeance forward after death. Really, vengeance kind of besets vengeance. So the vengeance against the dead nephew results in other, like the further deaths. It doesn't resolve anything. It just creates more and more and more death, which doesn't solve anything. And it's not a great system of governance either. Not really. It took my sister cousin Athena a little while to come up with something better. It did. Probably about another generation in terms of these heroes. But so this one's is different to Oedipus Rex, and is interesting because it is that question of, what do you owe the dead? What are the limits of what you owe the dead? But also how incredibly destructive pride is. Creon does not want to admit that he's wrong. He already feels deeply, deeply, deeply insecure on that throne. It does not belong to him. He has won it by default. It was Laius's throne. It should have been Oedipus's throne. It was Oedipus's throne, but not in the way that it should have been Oedipus's throne. It should have been his son's throne. But Oedipus, in abandoning the city, abandoned his sons and abandoned their any attempt to regulate their rivalry. Creon has not had the power to regulate his nephews because he is their uncle, he is the regent, yes, but as they have got more powerful, they have invoked the fact that they are the king's sons to justify their rivalry and their fighting. That by taking the throne, that sets the other, I want revenge, I'm going to take it back. This isn't helpful. It results in the death of both of them. Creon now is really last man standing, and he is trying very, very hard to keep Thebes together because They're having a bad time with kings. This is like 3 generations of kings. He is hoping to legitimize his son's position by marrying him to Antigone, and thereby creating that link back to the king so that his son might have a more stable throne. But in order to do this, he has made a mistake and made an enemy of Antigone. Now, Antigone is a little bit like Electra in that she is too single-minded. She decides to use covert means, and she decides to use an aggressively defiant means to resolve what she sees as what her uncle is doing wrong. Now, the fact that word is already spreading through the city saying Creon is doing the wrong thing, Creon is doing the wrong thing, that is only exacerbated by his treatment of Antigone, it suggests that if Antigone had waited, painful as that option is, it would have been easier for her voice, for his son's voice, for the people's voice, for the court's voice to be heard by Creon so that Creon could have a face-saving way to back down. But she doesn't. She defies him. Now, she defies him through feelings of filial loyalty, and she defies him because she feels that this is what is owed to the gods. But the fact that it takes very little time for the gods to make it known what they want through the blind seer, she should have had a bit more faith that the gods would come through, that the voices of many people in protest were going to eventually be heard, because to ignore those voices, Creon would make Creon even weaker. Because if he continued to ignore rather than remain the defiant that he does, because Antigone is defiant, Creon is able to be defiant, and you have matched. They're butting heads rather than allowing some conciliatory talk. They become opposing factions. It makes him more resolute until finally the gods have to make it abundantly clear and punish him. They punish him with the destruction of his household on top of the destruction of Oedipus's household. I mean, look, Oedipus's household was cursed. The gods really wanted to destroy them. There are a couple of families like that. But, you know, clearly Polly really hated him. I don't quite remember what he did to annoy Polly, or what any of them did to annoy Polly, but clearly Polly hated them. And then again, Polly doesn't like a lot of people. It's one of the problems with Polly. But he clearly hated them, that family. But because you have a system of justice that is ruled by the Erinyes, there is no conciliation, there is no peace talk, there is no negotiation. There is an eye for an eye. And that is not helpful. There is also no opportunity for characters or for these people to repent, to be. At no point does Theseus in Oedipus offer Oedipus the rituals needed to atone and wash off the ritual pollution. He is not. When forgiveness is reliant upon another human being choosing to do that, to reconcile one to the gods, that's quite difficult as well. Because it means that Oedipus ends up wandering. Honestly, Oedipus should have found some hermitage in the wilderness, sent out somebody out to get food every so often. I mean, yeah, it's going to be. He would have been torturing himself with thinking about what he did. Yes, but he wouldn't have been wandering his polluted ass all over Greece. That probably would have solved everyone a lot of problems. And if he was out in some hermitage out in the wilderness, nobody would have known where he was, and therefore they wouldn't have come pestering him, would they? No. But no, he is arrogant, and he lacks humility, which is why he remains polluted, which is interesting. So Creon loses everything because he can't back down, and he can't back down because there is no way to negotiate, and because Antigone is quite willing to become someone who will oppose him. It's the problem when the only answer is violence, then all you're going to get is more violence. And that's what happens. His family die violently. And he is left a king of what? He is still king of Thebes. But what use is that when your son and heir is dead? When your wife is dead? When you are basically sitting on... when your throne is yours because of the pile of bodies that are strewn around. It's a very hollow sort of victory for Creon. Again, Antigone, patience, girl, patience. Doesn't have that, does she? No. Doesn't have patience. Or very much faith in the gods for all of her desire to do what was ritually correct. She didn't have a great deal of faith that the gods would help her out. Probably why they didn't help her out. Either that or the Erinyes really wanted to get rid of that family. It could have been that. You really don't want to mess with them. They have their own ideas. No one has power over them. Not even Father Uncle Zeus has power over them. He has to obey them. And if Father Uncle Zeus has to obey them, yeah. You just try. They've got an apartment down here. We have to keep on good terms with them. I'm just saying. Anyway, that's it for this one. I would certainly say Antigone is the better watching experience than Oedipus in Colonus. I'm not sure what I'm going to bring you next time. Not sure. We could go modern, or we could go Renaissance-ish. Maybe we might try a French play. I've been thinking about trying a French play. We've done German ones. Maybe we'll try a French one next time. Not sure what, but I might change my mind entirely, but I have to go up for spring. And until then, bye-bye. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.